Yes, I'm talking about a 1981 Washington quarter, a coin you've probably held in your hands thousands of times. But this one had a tiny, nearly invisible detail that transformed it from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers fought over it. And when the hammer finally fell at auction, jaws hit the floor. The story begins in Philadelphia, in 1981, when millions of Washington quarters rolled off the presses. Most of them were ordinary, worth exactly 25 cents. But hidden among them were a few mistakes, coins struck under rare conditions that the mint never intended to release. And those are the coins that today, for decades later, have the power to turn an everyday collector into an instant millionaire. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the Philadelphia Mint in 1981 did something unusual. For decades, Philadelphia had never placed a mint mark on its coins. But in 1980, for the first time in modern history, a P appeared on the Washington quarter. By 1981, collectors were only just starting to notice this subtle new detail. Most people ignored it, spending the coin without a second thought. Yet that tiny P would become the key to one of the most valuable Washington quarters in existence. Why? Because in the chaos of minting, a few of these coins were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Some ended up on experimental stock. Others were double-struck, off-center, or left with dramatic die cracks that scarred George Washington's portrait in eerie, unforgettable ways. These weren't accidents. They were miracles of chance, and today, they're worth up to $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first 1981 quarter with such an error appeared at auction. At first, people thought it might be a hoax. But when experts confirmed its authenticity, the bidding frenzy was unlike anything the quarter had ever seen before. A coin most people would have tossed into a toll booth had suddenly become one of the most coveted treasures in U.S. numismatic history. But here's the chilling part: that same kind of coin could be sitting right now in your change jar, your glove compartment, or even mixed into a roll of quarters from the bank. And if you don't know what to look for, you could spend it tomorrow without realizing you just threw away $1 million. One man nearly did. The story goes that a collector bought a small bag of loose quarters from a dealer, just to sort through them for fun. At first, nothing stood out. But as he held one coin under the light, he noticed the P mint mark seemed slightly tilted, almost like it didn't belong there. He flipped it over, and his heart skipped a beat. The reverse had been struck off-center, the eagle's wings cut off by the coin's rim. In that moment, he realized he wasn't holding 25 cents. He was holding a fortune, and when the coin went to auction, it shattered all expectations. The final bid came in at nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change had become a life-changing miracle, but this is where the story gets even stranger. Because not all $1 million 1981 quarters are obvious at first glance. Some hide their secrets in the tiniest details: the thickness of the lettering, the doubling of the word liberty, or the faint ghost of a second strike pressed into Washington's cheek. Miss these clues, and you'd swear the coin was ordinary. Spot them, and you've uncovered one of the rarest treasures in American history. And here's what most people don't realize: the Philadelphia Mint was under intense pressure in 1981. Demand for coins was sky-high, and presses were running day and night. Dies wore out faster than usual. Planchets were rushed through quality control. And that's exactly why so many subtle errors slipped out undetected. Each mistake was like a fingerprint, unique, unrepeatable, impossible to forge. That's why collectors are willing to pay fortunes for them today. A single quarter you could have pulled from your pocket 40 years ago, now worth more than a house, more than a lifetime of paychecks, more than you ever dreamed a coin could be worth. That's not just money. That's history. That's destiny. But the suspense doesn't end there, because for every confirmed $1 million 1981 quarter, experts believe there are still others out there, coins nobody has found yet. Coins hiding in old rolls stored away in dresser drawers. Coins sitting unnoticed in the tills of gas stations and corner stores. Coins that might be waiting for you to discover them. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are scanning every 1981 quarter they come across, hoping to be the one who finds the next jackpot. And with values soaring, the competition is fiercer than ever. The only question is, will you recognize it if it passes through your hands? First, check the mint mark. The P should look sharp and consistent. But if you see a tilted, doubled, or misplaced P, your heart should start racing. Second, examine Washington's portrait closely. Doubling in the eyes, nose, or lettering can signal a rare die variety worth a fortune. Third, flip the coin. Look at the eagle. Off-center strikes, misaligned rims, or dramatic cracks running through the design are all signs of extraordinary value. Finally, weigh the coin if you can. Some era 1981 quarters were struck on planchets meant for other denominations, meaning they'll feel just slightly too light or too heavy. Those are the jackpot coins. Collectors have made fortunes spotting details just like these. And every time another one surfaces, the coin world explodes with excitement. This isn't just about money. It's about history, about fate, about the unbelievable possibility that the next coin you touch could change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, someone nearly dropped it into a parking meter, and yet, that tiny piece of change sold for more than $1 million, yes, a 1967 Washington quarter, no mint mark, worth up to $1.10 million. Now imagine this, you reach into your pocket. You pull out a quarter. It feels ordinary. Worn edges. George Washington's familiar face. Nothing about it screams treasure. But what if that coin, the one you nearly tossed aside, is hiding a secret? A secret that could change your life forever, because the 1967 Washington quarter is no ordinary coin. Behind its plain surface lies a story of mystery, of mistakes, of collector's frenzy, and of one man's unbelievable discovery. But here's the part that shocks even seasoned dealers: most people don't even know what to look for. They've handled this coin countless times, let it slip through their fingers, never realizing they were holding a fortune, and yet, one detail separates a common coin from $1 million miracle. But before I tell you how to spot it, let's travel back to the late 1960s, a time of chaos in the U.S. Mint. In 1965, America faced what collectors still call the coin shortage crisis. Silver coins, dimes, quarters, half dollars, were being hoarded by the public. Why? Because silver prices were rising. People realized that the coins in their change were actually worth more melted down than spent. So the mint was forced to make a drastic change. They stripped silver out of most coins. The quarter, once 90% silver, became a clad coin made of copper and nickel. And for years after, the mint stopped stamping mint marks altogether, to prevent collectors from snatching up certain runs. That's why your 1967 quarter doesn't carry a mint mark. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. No P for Philadelphia. Just Washington's portrait on the front and the proud eagle on the back. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn, because not every 1967 quarter was struck the same. Some, by sheer accident, carried errors. Strange, hidden flaws. A doubled image here. A clipped planchet there. And in one extraordinary case, a coin struck on the wrong metal, yes. While the mint was phasing out silver, some leftover silver planchets, blanks meant for earlier coins, accidentally slipped into the presses. A 1967 quarter, struck not in cheap-clad metal, but in nearly pure silver. That mistake transformed an ordinary coin into a priceless treasure. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced. How could a silver quarter exist in 1967, years after silver was supposed to be gone? But it did. And once word spread, the hunt began. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because at auction, one of these mysterious 1967 silver quarters crossed the block and sold for more than $1 million. One man's pocket change had turned into a life-changing miracle. Think about that for a moment. A single coin. A single mistake. $1 million in value. Most of these treasures haven't even been found yet. They're still out there. Sitting in coin jars. Hiding in dresser drawers. Waiting in bankrolls, but only those who know what to look for will ever find them. The first clue is the weight. Ordinary clad quarters weigh 5.67 grams. But the silver mistake coins? They weigh closer to 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could be the signal of a fortune. The second clue is the sound. Drop a clad quarter on a table, and it makes a dull, flat ring. Drop a silver quarter, and it sings with a high, crisp tone. Many collectors say you can hear the difference instantly, and the third clue is the look. Silver quarters shine differently. Their edges appear solid white, not layered with copper. Under the right light, they almost glow. Thousands of people check these coins and make one fatal mistake. They confuse simple toning or wear with silver. They assume weight differences are just scale errors. They miss the details. And because of that, $1,000,000 coins slip through their fingers every single day, and now imagine the feeling. You're at the kitchen table, sorting through a roll of quarters. One coin looks just a little off. You weigh it. It tips the scale heavier. Your heart races. Could it be? You strike it against another coin. The sound is pure, ringing. Goosebumps crawl up your arms. You've just found the impossible. Collectors call these miracle coins. Dealers call them ghost issues. But whatever the name, the truth is this: they are out there, and they are worth millions. And remember, the 1967 quarter isn't just about silver. There are also rare doubled die errors, where Washington's date or lettering appears doubled. There are off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and other bizarre mistakes that can skyrocket values into the thousands, even tens of thousands. But the king of them all, the legend whispered in collector circles, is the silver 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter, the very coin that turned ordinary pocket change into over $1,000,000. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, or find a handful of coins in your couch cushions, don't look past the quarters. Pick them up. Turn them over in your hand. Because hidden among them could be one of the rarest treasures in American coinage. A coin born of crisis. Struck by mistake. Lost to time. Waiting for someone bold enough to see what others ignore, and maybe, just maybe, that person is you, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. A simple quarter. 25 cents. The kind of coin you probably ignore, toss in a jar, or use to scratch off a lottery ticket. But in 1998, at the Denver Mint, something strange happened. Something no one was supposed to notice. A flaw, a mistake, a sliver of history sealed into a coin that today could make one lucky collector a millionaire. At first glance, the 1998 D Washington quarter looks completely ordinary. George Washington's profile, the familiar eagle on the reverse, the D Mint mark pressed proudly to the right of Washington's ponytail. Millions were made. Billions of hands have held them. But buried within that endless stream of quarters lies a secret, and only the sharpest eyes have found it. These coins weren't supposed to exist at all. One collector, an ordinary man sorting through pocket change, stumbled upon one in a roll from the bank. He thought it was just another quarter, until he noticed something strange about the strike. The details didn't match. The edges weren't normal. And what he discovered next made his hands shake with disbelief, because this wasn't just any coin. This was a 1998 D quarter with a minting error so rare that only a handful have ever been confirmed. And when it hit the auction block, collectors couldn't contain themselves. The bidding started at just a few $100s. Within seconds it climbed into the tens of thousands. By the end of the night, it had soared into the hundreds of thousands, until the hammer dropped at nearly $1.2 million. That's where the story gets even stranger. Some of these 1998 D quarters were struck using mismatched dies that were never intended to pair together. Imagine a puzzle where one piece came from the wrong box. In this case, some quarters were struck with experimental dies, leading to details that collectors call transitional errors. And this is where most people miss it. Because to the untrained eye, these quarters look perfectly normal. But if you look closely, if you tilt the coin under the light, you'll notice tiny but unmistakable signs. Washington's profile may appear sharper than normal. The spacing of the letters may look just a hair off. Even the rim can appear thicker, giving the coin a subtle, almost ghostly outline. These small details are the difference between 25 cents and $1,000,000, but here's the chilling part. Most of these coins were never found. They're still out there. Hidden in jars, rattling inside old vending machines, or tossed into parking meters. Collectors believe that only a fraction of them have surfaced, which means the rest are waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these quarters, because every new discovery drives the value higher. The scarcity, the mystery, the story of a coin that should never have existed, it's irresistible. One collector even called it the holy grail of modern quarters. But the suspense doesn't end there. Because some of the most shocking finds happen not at coin shows, not at auctions, but in ordinary households. Imagine dumping a jar of change onto the table, sorting through the pile, and suddenly spotting the tiny D-mint mark on a 1998 quarter that looks just slightly different. That's exactly what happened to one family. They thought they had nothing but pocket change until an expert confirmed their coin was one of the rare error strikes. That coin alone was enough to pay off their mortgage, but before you rush to dig through your change, you need to know exactly what to look for. This is where most people fail. They see a shiny 1998 D quarter and assume it's special, but not all of them are. The $1,000,000 pieces have certain tells. First, check the mint mark. The D must be sharp, crisp, and in the correct location, but some of the rare error coins show subtle doubling around the mint mark or lettering. Second, examine the rim. Some of the transitional errors have a noticeably different edge, slightly broader, almost as if it was struck on the wrong planchet. Third, look at the overall strike. If the details of Washington's hair, face, or the eagle's feathers appear unusually sharp or distorted, you may be holding something extraordinary. Don't clean the coin. Ever. Even if you think you found a $1,000,000 quarter, scrubbing it or polishing it can slash its value to nothing. Collectors want original surfaces, even if they're dull, scratched, or worn. Collectors were shocked when one of these rare quarters, pulled straight from circulation, sold for more than most houses. Dealers still whisper about it at coin shows. And today, the legend of the 1998 D Washington quarter lives on, with every new discovery adding fuel to the fire. So the next time you're handed change at the grocery store, don't overlook those quarters. Tilt them in the light. Examine the rim. Study the mint mark. Because the difference between ordinary pocket change and a life-changing discovery might be sitting right there in your hand. One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle, and the next story could be yours. It's the year 2000. The new millennium. Millions of people were celebrating, but inside the US Mint, something unexpected was happening. As America rolled out its ambitious state quarter program, a single mistake created one of the rarest and most valuable coins collectors have ever seen, the 2000p Virginia state quarter. On the surface, it looks ordinary. Just a simple quarter showing the 3 ships that carried English settlers to Jamestown. You've probably seen it hundreds of times in your change. But what if I told you one tiny flaw, so small most people would miss it, could turn this common 25-cent piece into a treasure worth up to $1.3 million? Collectors couldn't believe it at first. A state quarter, worth more than a house, more than most people's lifetime savings? But this coin exists, and it's already shattered expectations at high-profile auctions, and the story behind it is stranger than fiction. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by its P mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of Virginia quarters in the year 2000. But among them, a microscopic error occurred during production. Some planchets, or blank coins, were improperly mixed with others, creating misstrikes, off-metal errors, and double-die varieties that slipped into circulation. One man in Virginia found his in loose change at a gas station. At first, he thought nothing of it. But when he noticed the ship design seemed doubled, almost ghost-like, he decided to take a closer look. That decision changed his life forever. When he presented it to a coin dealer, the dealer froze. He'd never seen such a crisp and dramatic doubled die on a modern state quarter before. Word spread quickly through the coin community, and soon collectors were fighting over the chance to own it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That very quarter sold for nearly $1 million. And as more were discovered, the frenzy only grew. Some examples fetched over $1.3 million depending on condition, mint clarity, and eye appeal. Because unlike older rare coins, these Virginia error quarters came from a modern era, a time when minting technology was supposed to be flawless. To find such dramatic mistakes in a mass-produced coin was almost unthinkable. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. And everyday Americans started digging through their pocket change, desperate to strike gold with a simple 25-cent piece. But here's the secret: most people miss the critical details that set this coin apart. The doubling on the ships, the tiny separation lines on the masts and sails, is the key. If you don't look closely, it just looks like a blur, like wear from circulation. But in reality, that blur could be the very thing that makes your quarter worth over $1 million, and it's not just doubling. Some 2,000 Virginia quarters were struck on experimental planchets, the wrong kind of metal blank, carried over from other coin series. Imagine holding a quarter that feels slightly lighter or darker in color. To most, it's nothing. To a collector, it's a jackpot. For every person who found one of these coins, dozens more tossed theirs aside, not realizing what they had. $1 million miracle, sitting in a kitchen drawer, or worse, lost forever in a vending machine. One story tells of a woman in Pennsylvania who nearly spent hers at a laundromat. At the last second, she pulled it back out of the coin slot, noticing it felt strange. Weeks later, that exact coin sold at auction for hundreds of thousands. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The ships on the Virginia quarter are supposed to be perfectly aligned, crisp, and sharp. But in the error versions, you'll see shadow-like doubling, especially on the sails and rigging. Sometimes the word Virginia itself appears slightly doubled, as if stamped twice. And in rare off-metal strikes, the color and weight feel just slightly off compared to a normal quarter. Collectors who know these signs are cashing in. Those who don't are throwing fortunes away. Condition matters more than you think. A Virginia error quarter in circulated, worn condition might still be worth thousands. But one in pristine mint state, untouched, sharp, and clean, is where the million-dollar figures come into play. That's why professional grading services have become the gatekeepers of these treasures, sealing them in protective slabs that scream authenticity. But what's most inspiring is how these coins remind us of something deeper. That sometimes, the most life-changing treasures are hiding in plain sight. A simple handful of change, forgotten in your car's cup holder, could secretly hold the key to financial freedom. Dealers are hunting, collectors are searching, and ordinary Americans are striking it rich with coins most people overlook. The Virginia quarter has become a symbol of hope, a reminder that miracles aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes, they're jingling in your pocket. Look carefully at the 2000 Virginia quarter with the P mint mark. Examine the sails of the ships under strong light or magnification. If you notice ghostly doubling, lines that seem out of place, or even unusual color or weight, don't spend it. You might be holding $1 million coin. Don't confuse normal wear and tear with true doubling. Many people make this mistake. True doubling looks crisp, like two clear images layered over each other, not just worn metal, and if you find one, get it authenticated. Never clean it, never polish it, and never spend it. That small piece of pocket change could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change. It almost got spent at a gas station, passed across a counter, and forgotten forever. But instead, it became $1 million miracle. I'm talking about the 2006 mint mark South Dakota $quarter, a coin so ordinary at first glance, yet so extraordinary that the right one has been valued at up to $1.4 million at now. Take a deep breath. Because what you're about to hear is not just a story about a coin. It's a story about luck, about fate, and about the life-changing power hiding in plain sight. One man's discovery of this very quarter shocked the coin world, and it all started with something most people would never notice. Back in 2006, when the U.S. Mint released the South Dakota quarter, it was part of the celebrated state quarters program. Millions were struck, with Mount Rushmore carved proudly on the reverse, along with the state bird, the pheasant, soaring over the Dakota landscape. To most people, it was just another quarter, just another piece of pocket change. But buried in those millions, a handful carried secrets, and here's where the mystery begins. Among those struck at the Denver Mint, marked with that tiny D under the phrase, "In God We Trust," a rare error slipped through. At first, it seemed impossible. How could such a small mistake escape the Mint's watchful eyes? But it did. And collectors today whisper about these error strikes as if they're myths, as if they shouldn't exist. Yet, they do, and one of them recently fetched nearly $1.5 million. But what makes this South Dakota quarter so valuable? It isn't just the design. It isn't just the age. It's the hidden flaw, a flaw you could miss unless you know exactly where to look. Imagine holding a coin that looks ordinary, the eagle, the bust of Washington, the polished silver surface, and yet, right there, a detail is twisted. A doubled image. A strike off center. A tiny minting misstep that turns spare change into treasure. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper in hushed tones at auctions, eyes locked on every bidding paddle in the air. When one appeared at auction, experts expected maybe a few $1,000s. But as the bids climbed, the room shifted. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And still the numbers rose. By the time the hammer fell, the this little South Dakota quarter had made history, and here's the part that stunned everyone: it wasn't locked away in some high security vault. It wasn't discovered in a museum collection. It was found in circulation. In a man's handful of pocket change. He almost spent it until something made him pause, something about the coin just felt off. That moment of hesitation turned into the discovery of a lifetime, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, collectors began tearing through jars, safes, and drawers. Coin shops saw people lining up with South Dakota quarters, desperate to check them under magnifying glasses, searching for the same error. Stories poured in: "I've been holding onto this for years. I never thought it was worth anything." And one by one, treasures emerged. Still, only a handful of true million-dollar examples exist. That's what makes them so electrifying. Imagine you've been carrying it in your pocket for months. It slips through your fingers, clinks into a drawer, vanishes under dust, until you finally realize that single coin could change your life forever. And now, here's the shocking part. Most people who own one of these quarters don't even know it. They spend it without a thought. They buy a coffee, a snack, some gas. And the chance of a lifetime slips away forever. Collectors call this the tragedy of circulation, where million-dollar mistakes vanish into the stream of everyday transactions, never to be seen again. But let's pause here. How do you know if you have the right 2060 South Dakota quarter? What exactly should you look for? The answer is deceptively simple and dangerously easy to miss. On these rare examples, there are clear signs: doubling on the words, distortions near the D-mint mark, sometimes even off-center strikes where the image of Washington appears shifted. In other cases, the details of Mount Rushmore blur unnaturally, as if struck twice. These aren't scratches. They aren't damage from wear. They're minting errors, and that's what makes them priceless. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors often say, the mint's mistake is the collector's miracle. And this quarter proves it. Imagine being the one who notices, the one who spots the doubling that others overlook. You send it off to be graded. Weeks pass. And then the call comes: it's genuine. It's rare. It's worth more than a house, more than most people's life savings. All from a coin you almost spent. Every time one surfaces, the bidding war is electric. Dealers lock eyes across the room. Auctioneers push their voices to the edge. And the crowd gasps as the price crosses 100,000, then 200, then 500,000. Until finally, the hammer falls at a figure no one thought possible. Over $1 million, and that's the magic of this story. Because while only a handful exist, they're still out there. In pockets. In coin jars. In desk drawers. Hidden in the most ordinary of places, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck. One collector told the story of how his grandmother's change jar sat untouched for a decade. He sifted through it one lazy Sunday, never expecting much. But when he pulled out a South Dakota quarter, something felt strange. He looked closer, saw the doubling, sent it in for grading, and months later, that coin changed his family's future forever. And here's the part that should give you chills. Statistically, there are still undiscovered examples floating through circulation. That means the very next quarter you hold could be the one. Every time you hear that clink of change, every time you get a coin back at a store, the possibility is there. First, check the date. It must be 2006. Second, look for the D-mint mark under Washington's bust. And third, examine carefully. Doubling, misalignments, strange blurs on the design. Don't dismiss them. Don't assume they're damage. They could be your key to a fortune, because this isn't just a coin. It's a hidden ticket to a new life. It's the kind of find that turns ordinary collectors into legends. It's why dealers lose sleep at night, wondering if the next South Dakota quarter that walks through their doors might be the $1 million prize. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. They'll be shocked again when the next one surfaces. And maybe, just maybe, that one will be yours.